TGC Requiem here with Shadow Grixis. We are on the play. Fortunately, I don't think... Well, actually, we may be okay here. The two-hand disruption could buy us time to get into another... into a blue source for Serum Visions. We still have access to Bolt. If our opponent is pretty fast, that could just turn on Death Shadow. Ideally, we'd like to have a blue source here, but I think we're actually okay with this. We'll keep this. Always like to see your opponent mulliganing when you're sitting on hand disruption. So we could start on Thoughtseize. I actually think we're going to start on Inquisition here, just because we want to have access to that Thoughtseize. This build is a little more controlling. So what do we got? Some sort of mono white deck. Whenever another human enters the battlefield under your control, put a 1/1 counter on the champion of the parish. Battle Cry, which I think gives you +1/+0 for all creatures when they attack. Create 2 1/1 human creature tokens. If you have 5 or less life, create 5 of those tokens instead. So I think we're just going to go ahead and take their only effective 1-drop champion of the parish. They have a plains. Yeah, we're feeling alright about this. Oops. Mardu Woe Reaper. Whenever Mardu Woe Reaper, another bit warrior enters the battlefield under your control, you may exile target creature from graveyard if you do gain 1 life. Okay. So he can eat his own creature to gain a life. That's fine. So here we're just actually going to lightning bolt this. Not really any reason to run out the Thoughtseize as of yet. We're just going to hold on till his turn to do that. So we're going to bolt this after damage because we're trying to get it to help turn on our Death Shadow. There is a good chance he paths it to get himself another mana, but that is okay. That just gives us the ability. He was already going to do it, so now we don't have to even waste the bolt. Just because he needed to get his second land, so it's not surprising to see that. And we do have the question whether or not we want to run out bolt here, but I don't think we do quite yet. Excellent. So now we can go ahead, run out our Watery Grave, get a quick Serum Visions in. Well, so I actually have a... Let's actually hold that train. So we can go steal the path right now. If we steal the path and then play Death Shadow, that actually I think puts us on a pretty good quick clock. By the time he's ready to do Gather the Township, we may be in a position to use Stubborn Denial. I think the line here, while Serum Visions is fine, although he could spend the entire turn casting a Quarter Paladin, only to be able to, for us to just bolt it at end step, which is also a possibility. Yeah, I think that's what we want to do here, actually. We're not really in any rush. Kolaghan's Command we're going to put at the bottom. We need a third land. That doesn't really do us a whole lot of good, but the Bolts is pretty good here. We'll keep that on top. And I think we're going to just go ahead and fire off the Thoughtseize. Values Lieutenant. When enters the battlefield, put a 1/1 counter on each other human you control. Whenever another human enters, put a 1/1 on Thalia. So we're just going to go ahead and steal the path here. And then let him spend 2 mana here just to bolt whatever he does, basically. So he's actually going to go for this spell now. That's fine. Maybe not quite what I expected. We'll just have to be wary of the Thalia's Lieutenant. I guess I kind of figured it'd go the other way, but not a big deal. just going to hold up Bolt here. This will work out well. Can't imagine he's attacking into this. So we're going to go top, and then top. Use our Street Wraith to get ourselves that land. That puts our shadow big enough for Stubborn Denial to offset a path if that's what he's holding on to. We're actually just going to get a red-blue Steam Vents here. And then the plan will just be to bolt both of these humans in response to the Thalia Lieutenant, and then snap bolt the Thalia Lieutenant next turn. So he's going to leave the champion and then play Thalia's Lieutenant after. And this is actually going to, yeah, so we're going to be able to drive ourselves down to 11 life. I'm sorry, we'll be able to put ourselves down to 1, which makes us 12. Yeah, so we're just going to be able to bolt, snap, bolt. For lethal? I guess we got to be a little more careful than that. Because if we bolt him, we're only getting him actually down to 12. If he has removal, he could actually handle the Snapcaster Mage. No, actually he wouldn't, because even if he draws a path, Stubborn Denial would be a hard counter. Yeah, so we're just gonna bolt snap here. Then we have Stubborn Denial backup to protect against any spell, and he'll have to sacrifice both of his creatures if he draws another creature to block here. Two creatures, well, that becomes a little worse. Now we're just having to straight up trade that Snapcaster Mage. Starting to think maybe we should have just attacked in with the Shadow that last turn. So we are dead in the water here, ran ourselves a little thin. So he's just going to block with one of these creatures. Decides to attack with just the one, doesn't want to get blown out. Not sure it's necessarily the right call. Alright, what was the next card? Tasker. Yeah. So if we play, I mean, it's hard to say, but if we had played that a little more, a little less aggressive, I should say, we'd have done all right. All right, so we definitely want to bring in the Fatal Push. I think we want to bring in the Anger. Liliana could be pretty good with what we saw. Obviously, the counters present a potential issue, something to consider. Collective Brutality could be pretty decent. Actually, I think we may consider pulling out Inquisitions here. There really wasn't any graveyard synergy that we saw. Kolaghan's Command is okay, a little slow. Mostly a sorcery speed deck though, so this could help us if we play a little more of a controlling strategy here. We may not want to bring all this in. I'm just trying to think through what we want to do. There's a good chance our opponent is going to be bringing in Graveyard Hate, which makes the Gurmag Anglers and even the Snapcasters a little worse. Still got three more. I don't think we're going to play the third Kolaghan's Command at all here. It's possible we want to just shave on two of them. One of the things to consider here is our creatures are going to go to exile. They're probably pathing us, or they have the Rest in Peace. So Kolaghan's Command isn't going to be as good in that front. I think we're going to just cut a Inquisition, and we'll just run with this. One thing about this deck I found kind of interesting, a lot of one-drops. If you run into like a Eldrazi Tron player with their chalices, it is much more likely to struggle with a chalice on one. This is tough. We are on the play, and I like being on the play with Liliana. There's some concern, obviously, if he has a fast draw. We're not going to be able to get our Death Shadows down particularly quick. I think we actually are going to mulligan here. Turn one, Sarah. Yeah, I think we're actually good with this. We can put that right on the bottom. Looking for land. We drew our second land there. Stubborn, I think we only need one really, but we'll be happy to keep a Collective Brutality on top there. So mono white humans. Excuse me. I think what we want to do here, hold up Stubborn Denial for a Rest in Peace. So we're just going to go ahead and lead on an Inquisition. So Brave the Elements, good with creatures, basically giving himself protection from removal, etc. In the moment we're going to take the Lieutenant here. It's the most value for what he's trying to do. And Pass the turn. We're gonna have to be a little wary of Brave the Elements. Protection from red will protect them from the damage. Though we do have access to Stubborn Denial here too. So I think what we're going to do, we're just going to plan, we're going to try and eat the mana on his turn. If we can get both of his Braves used on the same turn, I think that's what we're going to go for. So we're hoping to get him to use a Brave the Elements here, and then we sorry. Yep, I'll actually let that one resolve. So we're getting him to use one of his Brave the Elements. What we'll do is try and push that on our turn, and then when he tries to Brave the next time, we'll Stubborn Denial there where he doesn't have the mana to counter it. Alright, so that slows this clock down a bit. Don't really want to run Street Wraith at this point. We're already going down to 6. Alright, we really are looking for red mana here. So we're in a bit of trouble. I think we're just going to have to go for the straight up three-way Collective Brutality here. Hope to draw into another land. This because we know he has a path, and we can at least get rid of that or make him spend it. So we will target this guy and that guy. So it'll give us a couple more turns worth of, or at least one more turn worth of life. We're either needing a big creature or a... Yeah, we really need a red land now. Red mana source or we're done. Oh, that's not the mana source we needed, so we're going to go ahead and lose here. Turn 6. In general, the go wide strategies are pretty good against, with a lot of cheap creatures, are pretty good against shadow decks, for sure. Definitely something you have to be aware of. Alright, well, unfortunate. A lot of the meta is starting to adjust. This might be this person's just pet deck, or it might be their only modern deck. But it does line up well against the shadow decks. Actually, I've been having a lot of success with elves myself, because right now the shadow decks themselves do so much damage to themselves that they have struggles keeping up with the number of elves getting wide enough to and the Shaman of the Pack draining the shadow players. But then also there's the whole thing where Eldrazi's become super popular as a attempt to counter the shadow decks, and elves are just phenomenal against Eldrazi decks as well. And so I've been running very good numbers with elves because it's just a good meta for this. I don't know that this deck that he's running would be quite as good against a Eldrazi deck, since they probably can't. Brave the Elements doesn't do a whole lot of good, and they don't really have ways to get their creatures big enough to tangle with a Reality Smasher like Elves does. But regardless, it's good enough to fight the Shadow deck. So not terribly surprised we lose this one, but definitely a little disappointed. We'll be back with more Death Shadow Grixis soon.